So if you guys have clicked on this video, then you guys want to know what a GPU is. And basically, a GPU is a graphics processing unit. It is there just to process the graphics in something such as a video game or Cinema 4D or something where you're dealing with 3D objects. So starting off with things, I'm going to get into what the GPU numbers mean. And when I say GPU numbers, I mean if you see a graphics card and it says a GTX 970 or a GTX 980 or a GTX 1080. So basically what this means is the higher the number, usually the better. If you have a GTX 960, it is not going to be near as good as a GTX 970, and if you have a GTX 980, it's going to be way better than a GTX 970. And recently they have came out with the GTX 1070, 1080, and a 1060. These 1060 is probably the equivalent of a 970, and a 1070 I think is the sweet spot for GPUs. It is a pretty expensive card, but you're going to be able to run, such as this gameplay here, you see 1080p Battlefield 1 at 60 FPS. I was able to run this with a GTX 1070, and GTX 1070 is my recommended card if you're going for under $800, I'd say. But if you're building a PC that's not going to be for games or for a editing rig or something like that, then you really don't need a really expensive GPU, because the GPU is only for the graphics. It's only for the visuals, such as if you're playing a game or using a 3D software. So if you're not going to be doing any of those things, you really don't need an expensive GPU, unless you're going to try and watch a 4K video on like a 55-inch TV. Then yes, you will probably need a 1060, I'd say. But anything higher than that, for that, you really don't need. And it really depends on what games you're going to be playing. If you're planning on playing Minecraft all day, every day, then you don't need a 1080 or a 1070. Not even really a 1060. I'd stay in the 970 range, but they are getting obsolete, and the 1060 is a very cheap alternative. So you might want to go for a 1060 if you're going to be playing Minecraft or Unturned or any other games that don't really require a lot of, graphics. So getting into our last two subjects, SLI and bottlenecks. SLI is simply running two GPUs at the same time, such as two 1070s or two 1080s even, but that's way overkill. But they do not, unfortunately, offer it for the 1060s, and they said it would probably be better if you were just to go buy a one 1070, and that is usually the case because a lot of games don't support SLI, and if they don't support SLI, then you're only going to get half of what you paid for, performance-wise. So I would stick with just one singular GPU, maybe one 1080 instead of two 1070s. That's what I would personally do. Our last subject, which is bottlenecking. This is what happens when when a bad CPU is paired with a good GPU. Because a bad CPU cannot handle how good your good GPU is. And if you don't have a CPU that can process how good your good GPU is, then it's not going to process all of the goodness, basically. I know this was a weird example, but if you have a really bad CPU, then it's not going to be able to work with your really good GPU as good as your good GPU can perform. So let's say you have an i3 6300 or something like that. I'm not even sure if that's an actual CPU. I'm just throwing that out there as an example. But if you do have a really low end CPU like that, and then you put a GTX 1080 on it, your GTX 1080 is only going to perform like a GTX 1060, if not worse, because your CPU just can't handle how good it is. But if you guys like this content, please subscribe. I'm going to be doing a video on CPUs next, and hopefully it'll get you guys more informed, I guess I could say, or more educated. That's the word I was looking for, on what these PC parts and numbers and all this means. Not too long ago, I didn't know too much about this, and now I've built my own PC and I know all about it, so I'm teaching you guys. So please subscribe for more of this, and see you guys in my next video.